What if the thing you've been chasing your entire life was never meant to be caught? What if the peace you crave isn't hiding in a distant dream, but waiting in the stillness you keep avoiding? And what if all the noise you're drowning in is the very thing keeping you from hearing the answer you've been seeking? Every day, people run faster, work harder, pile up more achievements, believing the next goal will finally unlock that lasting sense of purpose. But when the moment comes, it's never enough. Like pouring water into a cracked vessel, everything just slips away. But here's the truth that Stoics understood. You don't find meaning by chasing it. You discover it when you finally stop running. When the mind grows still enough to see what's been there all along. You're not lost, you're restless, and that's not the same thing. You've been searching for something that will finally feel like enough. You've chased success, love, recognition, thinking one of them would silence the ache inside. Yet, every time you reach out to grab it, it fades. Every time you grasp tighter, it slips away. The harder you chase, the faster it runs. The more you cling, the more it crumbles. That's because meaning isn't a prize you win. It's not a treasure buried out there somewhere in the future. Meaning is what emerges when the storms inside your mind settle, when the water stops thrashing and you can see straight to the bottom. Marcus Aurelius understood this better than most. He didn't write his thoughts to impress the world. He wrote them to survive. His words were not declarations for an audience. They were quiet notes to himself, reminders scratched into the margins of his own life, telling him that everything he controlled could vanish overnight. And everything he truly needed was already within. Think about that. Marcus was the most powerful man in the known world. He commanded armies, ruled an empire, had wealth beyond measure. And yet he saw with crystal clarity that without inner stillness, all that power was just noise. And you, right now, you might feel like if you stop searching, you'll fall behind. That if you let go of the chase, you will be left with nothing. But the paradox is the moment you stop demanding life to give you meaning, you create the space for it to appear. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It's the presence of clarity. It's when the noise quiets enough for truth to rise to the surface, and meaning, real meaning, only blooms in that soil. When we live always in pursuit, we become blind to what's already here. Our vision knows, our breathing shortens. The present moment becomes nothing but a stepping stone to the next thing. But the Stoics remind us, life is not lived in the next thing. It's lived in this breath, this thought, this choice. When Marcus wrote to himself, it wasn't in grand speeches. It was in the quiet hours, far from the Senate halls and battlefields. He faced the same restlessness we do, the same pull toward more, the same temptation to believe that meaning lies somewhere out there. And, like us, he had to fight, not with swords, but with his own thoughts. His weapon was reflection. His shield was stillness. His victory was not in conquering lands, but in conquering the endless thirst for more. Now, ask yourself, what happens if you stop? What happens if you put the chase down, even for a moment? Would the world fall apart, or would you finally hear it breathing? Would the silence feel empty, or would it feel full, rich, alive? That's the uncomfortable truth. Stillness is not easy. It feels unnatural at first. We are wired to keep moving, to keep reaching, to keep doing. But stillness, real stillness, is a skill, and like any skill, it must be practiced. Maybe you start by sitting alone without reaching for your phone, or walking without headphones, or eating without distraction. These aren't just habits. They're acts of rebellion against a world addicted to noise. The Stoics knew that a man who can master his own attention is a man who cannot be mastered. They knew that when you stop reacting to every pull, every push, every shout from the outside world, you reclaim the only thing that truly belongs to you, yourself. And here's the most important part. Stillness doesn't mean inaction. It doesn't mean withdrawal from life. It means engaging with life from a place of calm strength. It means seeing clearly before you act. It means not being tossed round by every wave. Imagine being the eye of the storm. Round you, chaos. But at your center, quiet. That's what Marcus built for himself, and what you can build too. So the question is, will you keep running, hoping to catch meaning someday? Or will you slow down, let the dust settle, and see that meaning was already running beside you the entire time? Because when the mind grows still, life stops being a chase and starts being something far greater. And this is where our journey deepens. Because stillness isn't just about slowing down. It's about stripping away the illusions that keep you restless in the first place. In the next section, we'll uncover how the Stoics dismantled the false stories we tell ourselves, and why letting go of these illusions may be the most powerful step toward true peace. We ended with stillness, that rare state where life stops feeling like a sprint and starts to feel like something you can finally breathe in. But here's the truth most people avoid. Stillness doesn't just happen because you wish for it. Demands a certain courage. The courage to strip away the illusions you've been holding onto for years. The illusions that have been shaping your decisions, your identity, even your sense of worth. The Stoics knew that until you face those illusions head on, you'll never be free. You'll always be running, not toward meaning, but away from the truth. And so, page 2 begins where the real work starts. Think about the last time you convinced yourself that when something happens, then you'll finally feel at peace. Maybe it was getting the job you wanted, buying the house you dreamed of, finding the relationship you thought would complete you. That when-then formula feels safe, like it gives your life a clear map. But what if that map is drawn on fog? Stoics would tell you, the moment you tether your peace to something outside yourself, you've given away control. You've placed your happiness in the hands of chance, in the moods of strangers, in the fragile shifting of circumstance. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself often, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's not just poetic philosophy. It's a survival skill. Because if you've ever watched your plans collapse overnight, you know how brutal it feels when your peace was built on them. So, the first illusion to let go of is the belief that peace is conditional. Peace is not something you earn when the stars align. It's a choice you defend in the middle of the storm. Another illusion, one the modern world feeds like oxygen to a fire, is the belief that your worth is measured by output. That if you're not producing, achieving, improving, then you're falling behind. Social media will remind you daily that someone is younger, richer, stronger, more accomplished. But here's the thing the Stoics understood. Comparison is a thief that robs in silence. It distracts you from your own lane. It makes you live as if life were a scoreboard instead of a journey. Seneca warned about this in his letters, about wasting your energy chasing what other people celebrate, instead of pursuing what truly matters to you. He wrote about the man who is everywhere but nowhere, always scattering his focus into other people's lives, forgetting to live his own. Do you see the pattern here? The more we live according to illusions, the more restless we become. Because illusions can't feed the soul. They only feed the chase. And a chase never ends. It just changes targets. Here's where the Stoics were. Radical. They didn't just talk about stripping illusions. They practiced it. Marcus would imagine losing everything, not out of pessimism, but to remind himself that he could endure it. Epictetus, born a slave, taught that the most dangerous chains are the ones on the mind. So how do you start stripping away your own illusions? You start by asking one dangerous question. If this were taken from me tomorrow, who would I be if the answer leaves you empty, restless, or panicked? Then you found where your illusion lives, and that's where the work begins. It's not about rejecting ambition, love, or success. The Stoics didn't despise these things. They just refused to build their identity on them. They knew the difference between enjoying something and depending on it. Imagine holding everything in your life like water in your hands. You enjoy it while it's there. You feel its coolness, its weight. But you don't try to clutch it so hard that it slips through your fingers faster. This, they taught, is the art of freedom. Now, here's where stillness and truth meet. Once you start removing illusions, the mind has room to settle. You are no longer fighting to protect the fragile castles you've built in your imagination. You begin to see life more clearly, not as it should be, not as you've been told it is, but as it actually is. And in that clarity, meaning starts to grow, quietly, without force, like sunlight seeping through clouds. You stop looking for life to deliver you something new, and start noticing what's been here all along. But, and this is important, clarity doesn't mean comfort. In fact, the first stages of letting go often feel like loss. You'll feel the ground shift. You'll feel lighter but also a little exposed. That's the price of truth. It takes away your illusions but leaves you standing naked in reality. The Stoics believed that was a gift, because only then could you build on solid ground. Only then could you choose stillness, not because life was easy, but because you were no longer at war with yourself. We ended on a question that can shake the very core of who you think you are. If I'm no longer defined by what I chase, who am I now? That silence, that pause, can feel like standing in an empty room after the furniture's been taken away. It's not the absence of life, it's the beginning of it. But in that beginning, there's discomfort. The Stoics call this the clearing, the space you create when you stop filling every corner of your mind with noise, goals, and the next milestone. And in that clearing, you meet yourself without the masks, without the titles, without the scripts others handed you. When you step into this clearing, the first thing you might feel is unease, because without your chase, without the daily distraction of running after something. You're confronted with the raw truth of your inner state, and that truth can be startling. Many people, when they reach this point, immediately look for something new to chase. It's like being on a long road trip. You finally stop the car, but instead of resting, you start searching for the next route. That's because we've been conditioned to see movement as progress. Even if we're moving in circles, the Stoics would call that a false life. Seneca wrote that life is long if you know how to use it, but short if you waste it on things that don't matter. He warned against the restless energy that keeps us always busy but never truly alive. Here's the hard part. Stillness isn't about doing nothing. It's about being present with whatever you're doing. It's washing the dishes without wishing you were somewhere else. It's walking without needing to post it. It's having a conversation without secretly checking your phone. Marcus Aurelius said it simply: the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts, and your thoughts, left unattended, will pull you into the same chases you just escaped. So, this stage is about attention, about noticing the way your mind wants to escape the present, about catching yourself when you start trading now for later. Because here's the paradox: the more you practice being here, the less you feel the frantic pull to chase something there. But stillness will test you. It's in the quiet moments that old fears resurface. Maybe you've tied your identity to your productivity and now you feel guilty for slowing down. Maybe you've tied your worth to other people's approval, and without constant validation, you feel invisible. The Stoics approached this with brutal honesty. They didn't hide from their flaws. They sat with them. They treated each discomfort like a messenger, pointing toward an attachment they needed to release. Picture Epictetus, a man born into slavery, finding freedom not by changing his circumstances first, but by mastering his mind. His chains were real, but he refused to let them define him. And when he was freed, he didn't run toward excess. He built a life grounded in discipline, simplicity, and resilience. This is the invitation of stillness, not to retreat from life, but to strip away the excess so you can actually live it. It's realizing you don't need every door open. You only need the right one. And here's where meaning sneaks back in, not as something you hunt down, but as something you notice growing quietly in the background. The more you let go of the noise, the more you start to see the patterns, the relationships, the moments, the small daily choices that actually give life its depth. Meaning becomes less about the big, cinematic moments and more about the ordinary moments you stop taking for granted. A cup of coffee in the early morning, the sound of rain against the window, a conversation that feels effortless and true. The Stoics didn't see this as settling for less. They saw it as discovering enough, and enough, they believed, is the beginning of freedom. So, if stillness is where you meet yourself, and meaning is what quietly grows there, the next step is learning how to guard it. Because the world won't stop trying to pull you back into the chase. And the Stoics had a few timeless weapons for that battle. Once we'll open up next. Do you want me to move directly into page 4 so we keep this flow tight and uninterrupted? That's where the guarding stillness phase really comes alive. With a question even more challenging. If I am no longer defined by what I chase, who am I now? In the next section, We'll step into that quiet space together and see what the Stoics discovered when the chase finally ended. We've built stillness like a clearing in the middle of a noisy city. A place where you can finally hear your own thoughts without the echo of everyone else's. But here's the thing. The world doesn't like your stillness. It will try to fill it with demands, distractions, and doubts. The Stoics knew this. They knew that the second you stop running, the world will send you 1,000 reasons to start again. So how do you guard the peace you've worked so hard to uncover? The Stoics believed it starts with clarity, knowing exactly what matters to you and what doesn't. Because if you don't decide, the world will decide for you. And its decisions will almost always lead you back into noise. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you must be like the rock against which the waves break, unshaken, unmoved. The waves will still crash, the noise will still rise, but your job is to stand rooted. Guarding stillness means creating boundaries, not just physical ones, but mental ones. It's learning to say no without guilt. It's protecting your mornings, your thoughts, your focus. Epictetus put it more sharply. If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Because when you choose stillness in a culture obsessed with speed, you will look strange. People will misunderstand you. They might even think you've lost your ambition. But here's the truth. Ambition without direction is just restlessness, and restlessness is the enemy of wisdom. Guarding stillness also means choosing what you let in. Every conversation, every news headline, every piece of gossip. It all takes up mental space. The Stoics didn't believe in total ignorance, but they believed in careful selection. They asked, will this help me live a better life, or will it disturb my mind for no reason? And this is where modern life gets dangerous. We've built devices that can feed us noise all day, every day. You could fill every quiet moment with scrolling, never having to face your own mind. But that's exactly why stillness is so rare and so valuable. Seneca warned against the useless preoccupations of the masses, the things that fill our days but leave our lives empty. Guarding stillness means being ruthless about what you give your attention to. Because attention is life, and where your attention goes, your life follows. Sometimes, guarding stillness will mean making hard choices. Maybe it's ending a friendship that constantly drains you. Maybe it's walking away from a job that demands every ounce of your energy but gives nothing back to your soul. The Stoics didn't shy away from these choices. They saw them as acts of courage. Stillness is not fragile, but your access to it can be. Without protection, it gets buried under commitments, notifications, and obligations. Guarding it means making space on purpose and defending that space when the world tries to take it back. And here's something the Stoics understood deeply. Stillness isn't just for you. When you protect it, you bring more peace into every part of your life. You show up calmer, clearer, and more present. That presence affects your work, your relationships, your health. It spreads. The Stoics didn't chase meaning. They built lives where meaning had room to appear. They didn't wait for a peace. They created it, and then they guarded it like treasure. And once you've learned to guard it, once you've kept the noise out long enough to let stillness deepen, something begins to happen. You stop fearing the emptiness and you start trusting it. And in that trust, a new kind of power emerges. That's where we're heading next. We've talked about guarding stillness like a fortress, protecting it from the constant siege of noise. But here's what the Stoics knew. Defense is only half the work. The other half is learning how to live inside that stillness without restlessness, creeping back in. Most people treat silence like a waiting room, something to be endured until the next distraction arrives. But the Stoics saw it as the workshop of the soul. It's where you meet yourself without the masks, without the roles, without the noise. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That means the real sanctuary isn't a cabin in the mountains or a retreat in the desert. It's the ability to sit quietly with your own thoughts and not run from them. Living inside stillness means allowing your mind to settle, like mud drifting, to the bottom of a clear pond. At first, you'll see the mess, the anxieties, the grudges, the fears you've buried under endless activity. It's uncomfortable. The Stoics didn't sugarcoat this. They understood that facing your inner chaos is the only way to transform it. Once the surface begins to clear, you start noticing patterns. Maybe you've been chasing approval without realizing it. Maybe you've been avoiding a truth about yourself. Stillness makes it visible, and once it's visible, you can change it. Living in stillness doesn't mean withdrawing from life. It means engaging with life from a grounded place. You stop reacting to every impulse. You start responding with intention. Think of it like archery. If you release the arrow in haste, it flies off course. Stillness is the moment you take aim. The shot still takes effort, but now it's guided. The Stoics used stillness to align their actions with their values. Epictetus asked, "Is this within my control?" If the answer was yes, they acted with discipline. If no, they released it without bitterness. This simple filter kept their energy focused on what actually mattered. And here's the paradox. When you stop chasing meaning and start living in stillness, meaning comes to you. It rises naturally from a life lived with clarity and purpose. You don't have to grasp at it. You simply live and it appears. This is why stillness is power. It gives you freedom from the frantic pull of other people's priorities. It gives you space to hear your own wisdom. And in that space, you begin to live deliberately, not by accident. And yet, the Stoics knew that stillness isn't a permanent state you arrive at. Life will test it. Storms will come. The real mastery is not in finding stillness once, but in returning to it over and over, no matter what happens in the next part. We'll explore how they anchored themselves in stillness even when the world around them was in chaos. We've stepped into the quiet and learned to live inside it. But here's the thing. Stillness isn't a treasure you lock away and keep untouched. It's a skill, and like any skill, it needs to be tested, challenged, and strengthened in. Stoics lived in times of war, political upheaval, personal betrayal. They weren't philosophers in ivory towers. They were soldiers, emperors, exiles. Their stillness wasn't built in comfort. It was forged under pressure. Think of Marcus Aurelius. He ruled Rome while plagues swept the empire, while borders were under constant attack. Yet his private writings reveal a man who returned, again and again, to his inner citadel. When chaos knocked on the gates, he reminded himself, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Life will always try to pull you into reaction, an insult at work, a sudden loss, a change in plans. The Stoics practiced what I call the pause of power. That space between what happens and how you respond. In that space, stillness lies. When you hold that pause, you can choose: do I react with anger, fear, or pride? Or do I act from reason, compassion, and purpose? The pause isn't weakness. It's the seat of all strength. Seneca once wrote that anger is like a collapsing building. It falls on everything round it. The pause prevents the collapse. Stillness keeps the structure standing. This doesn't mean you become cold or detached. It means you train yourself not to be ruled by the first wave of emotion. You let it pass like a storm cloud and then you act. And here's the deeper truth. Stillness is not passive. It's active discipline. It's scanning the battlefield of life and moving with precision, not panic. It's saying, this is mine to control, and this is not. And pouring your effort into the first while letting go of the second. Without this discipline, life feels like being dragged behind a runaway horse. With it, you're in the saddle. The horse still runs, the train still changes, but your hands are steady on the reins. But the Stoics also knew stillness isn't sustained by discipline alone. It needs fuel, and that fuel comes from aligning your daily actions with your deepest values in the next part. We'll explore how they wove stillness into every decision, so that even their smallest choices became unshakable anchors. We've seen how stillness is built, not in grand, dramatic gestures, but in the small, deliberate moments that form the architecture of a day. But the real test of stillness isn't in calm waters. It's in the storms. Imagine the Emperor of Rome sitting in his tent. Outside, messengers arrive with troubling news. A province in rebellion. A trusted friend accused of betrayal. The Senate murmuring discontent. Marcus Aurelius could have lashed out, given into fear, or tried to drown himself in distraction. Instead, he turned to his journal and wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke it." Now a moment, that line isn't theory. It's a survival strategy. Stillness gave him control over his perception, and perception shaped his reality. We face the same kind of assaults, just in different clothes. The bad news at work, the sudden argument with someone you love, the unexpected bill that shatters your financial plan. In each case, you have two choices: be pulled into the current, or anchor yourself. Anchoring yourself doesn't mean pretending nothing is wrong. The Stoics never taught denial. It means seeing events as they are, without exaggeration or distortion. If something can be fixed, fix it. If it can't, release it. This clarity is what keeps you from wasting energy on things outside your control. Epictetus would tell his students to rehearse this truth daily. You may fetter my leg, but my will, not even Zeus himself, can overpower. That's the unshakable center stillness creates. Your body can be caught in chaos, but your mind remains sovereign. Think about your last crisis. Did you feed it with fear and frantic reaction? Or did you pause, breathe, and choose your response? That pause, That brief moment before reaction is the doorway to freedom. The world rewards people who appear decisive. But Stoicism teaches that decision without stillness is recklessness. A rushed choice might silence the noise for a moment, but it often creates more chaos later. Stillness forces you to look at the llama, not just the immediate flame in front of you. Marcus didn't see stillness as passive. He saw it as the discipline to act from wisdom, not impulse. And the only way to have that discipline in the storm is to practice it in the calm. So, how do you train yourself to meet chaos without losing yourself? The Stoics had a method, a daily, almost ritualistic way of sharpening the mind so it stayed sharp when the world tried to dull it. And on the next page, we'll step into their training ground. We left Marcus in the quiet of his tent, choosing stillness over reaction. But stillness wasn't something he summoned only in moments of crisis. It was a habit, forged in repetition, day after day. The Stoics had a training ground, not made of marble halls or military drills, but of small, ordinary actions every morning. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself, "Today I will meet people who are selfish, arrogant, deceitful, jealous." It wasn't pessimism. It was preparation. By expecting resistance, he robbed it of its power to shock him. Seneca took a different approach. He would deliberately expose himself to minor discomforts. Sleeping on a hard bed, wearing rough clothes, eating plain food. Why? To remind himself that comfort was a privilege, not a necessity. That if life took it away, he would not break. Epictetus taught something more radical. He told his students to rehearse loss in their minds. When you kiss your child, whisper to yourself, "They are mortal," not because he wanted them to live in sorrow, but because he wanted them to live without illusions. Stillness thrives in reality, and reality is impermanent. These daily practices trained them to meet life with a balanced mind. If a gift came, they received it with gratitude. If it was taken away, they released it without collapse. You and I can create our own training ground. It might be as simple as leaving your phone in another room for an hour each day, letting your mind wander without a constant feed of stimulation, or waking up earlier, before the world starts screaming for your attention, giving yourself a quiet hour to think, journal, or walk. Stillness is built in these quiet repetitions. It's like sharpening a blade, not once, but every day, until the edge is keen, and when life demands it, you won't be fumbling to find your center. It will already be there, waiting. But stillness is not just about protecting your mind from the storms. It's also about opening space for meaning to find you. In the next page, we'll see why chasing meaning often drives it further away, and how the Stoics found something deeper simply by standing still. We've sharpened the blade of stillness, practiced it in small, daily rituals. But here's the trap most people fall into. They think stillness is just a tool to get something. Clarity, success, peace. The Stoics would warn us, if you make it a tool for chasing, you've already lost it. Chasing meaning is like trying to cup water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it escapes. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not waste the rest of your life wondering what a good man should be. Be one It's a call to stop hunting for some grand revelation and start living in alignment with your values right now. Seneca compared the search for meaning to a traveler who keeps changing roads, thinking the next turn will reveal the city. But the city is not on the map. It is built beneath your feet. Meaning is not found at the end of a quest. It is formed in the way you walk each step. We live in an age where purpose has become a buzzword. Self-help gurus shout, "Find your why." Social media shows you 1,000 curated lives that look more meaningful than yours. And so you run harder, scrolling, comparing, chasing. But the more you look, the more empty you feel. The Stoics refused this race. They didn't ask what is the meaning of life. They asked what is the right thing to do next. The answer was usually simple. Fulfill your role, act with virtue, contribute to the common good. And in doing so, meaning naturally emerged, without fanfare. Stillness is the soil and meaning is the plant. You cannot pull the plant from the ground and expect it to thrive. You tend the soil, remove the weeds, give it light, and let it grow in its own time. So perhaps the real work is not chasing, but stopping. Not demanding that life hand you a grand purpose, but creating the conditions in which meaning can quietly take root. And this leads us to one of the hardest truths in Stoic thought. You are not in control of what meaning drives in your life, but you are fully in control of the character you bring to each moment. On the next page, we'll explore how the Stoics used acceptance, not to surrender, but as a source of power that no one could take from them. We ended with a truth most people avoid. Meaning is not something you seize by force. Instead, the Stoic way teaches us to plant our feet in the present moment and act from our deepest values. And that's where acceptance comes in. Not the weak, passive kind you may be imagining, but a fierce, deliberate acceptance that turns life's hardest blows into fuel. Epictetus was born a slave, his leg crippled by cruelty. He could have cursed fate, drowned in resentment, and chased an idea of a better life that never arrived. Instead, he mastered the art of acceptance, not because he liked what happened, but because he understood that railing against reality was the quickest path to misery. To the Stoics, acceptance was not a white flag, it was a sword. By accepting reality as it is, you stop wasting strength on the impossible and start using it where it matters. Think of a sailor. He does not waste his energy wishing for a different wind. He adjusts the sails to the wind he's given. This is how Marcus Aurelius could rule an empire under constant pressure. War on the borders, plague in the streets, betrayal in the palace, and still write in his journal each night as if he had all the time in the world. Modern life offers the same trap as ancient Rome. We are surrounded by events we cannot control. Layoffs, political chaos, health scares, the unpredictable turns of other people's choices. Acceptance doesn't mean you like these things, it means you refuse to be broken by them. The Stoics understood something profound. If you wait for life to be smooth before you find peace, you'll never find it. But if you decide that peace is an internal discipline, independent of what the world throws at you, then you carry your stillness everywhere. This is not easy. Your instinct will be to resist, to fight what is. But the next time life delivers something heavy, ask yourself, what is mine to control here? What is not? Then pour your energy into the first, and let the second fall away. We left off with a paradox, that surrendering control over outcomes can give you more power than grasping ever will. Now, let's step inside that paradox and see why the Stoics made it the core of their resilience. Picture this: you are in a dense forest, searching for a path. In panic, you rush from tree to tree, convinced the right path is just out of sight. The more frantically you search, the more lost you feel. But when you finally stop, breathe, and allow yourself to see clearly, the path reveals itself. This is the same with control. The more desperately you try to manipulate everything, the more tangled your life becomes. But when you narrow your focus to what is truly yours to command, your actions, your choices, your attitude, you begin to see the way forward. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is not a suggestion. It is a battle plan. The Stoic knows that influence comes from clarity, and clarity comes from letting go of the noise. Think of a chess master. She cannot control her opponent's moves, but by focusing on her own strategy, her own discipline, she shapes the game's outcome. Your life is no different. You cannot dictate every variable, but you can choose how you respond to each one. Letting go of control over outcomes doesn't mean apathy. It means precision. It means no longer spending your strength on the tides, and instead mastering the oars. And here is the quiet miracle. When you stop chasing the illusion of control, people notice your calm becomes magnetic. In a world addicted to panic, your grounded presence speaks louder than any frantic action, and yet, this inner mastery requires a constant guard. On the next page, we'll explore the Stoic shield, how discipline is not just about doing hard things, but about protecting your mind from the chaos trying to invade it. We ended with the truth that calmness becomes power, but calmness is fragile if left unguarded. The Stoics knew, imagine your mind as an ancient city. The walls are your principles. The gates are your attention. Every day, an army of distractions marches toward you. Fear, gossip, temptation, anger. If your gates stand open without God, chaos floods in. But if you station disciplined sentries, nothing enters that you do not permit. Epictetus said, "When you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Then you will forget your anger." This is not about ignoring wrongs. It is about keeping the gates of your mind from being breached by someone else's noise. Think about it: how much of your day's energy is lost because you allow others' actions to dictate your inner weather. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your peace is gone. A colleague makes a careless remark, and suddenly your mood is their prisoner. The Stoic discipline is a refusal to hand over those keys. It's not about becoming numb. It's about becoming selective, like a master curator in a gallery. You choose what is allowed to hang on the walls of your mind. And here's the beautiful twist. Discipline in guarding your mind doesn't make you rigid. It makes you freer. When the noise of the world can't breach your fortress, you move through life lighter, focused, unshaken. But guarding the mind is only half the art. The Stoics also understood that strength grows not just in solitude, but in the way you meet the world. On the next page, we'll see how engaging with life deliberately, rather than reactively, turns every day into training for the soul. We've built the fortress. We've manned the gates. Now the question is, when you do step outside those walls into the world, how will you walk? Will you wander without aim? Or will you move with purpose that cannot be shaken by chance? Marcus Aurelius carried the weight of an empire on his shoulders, and yet, in his meditations, he often reminded himself of one thing: do what is necessary, and do it with dignity, strength, and goodwill. This is the essence of moving deliberately. It is not rushing. It is not drifting. It is the steady pace of a person who knows that every step matters. Think about how most people live, reacting to notifications, headlines, gossip, small irritations, like leaves caught in the wind. They are blown in every direction. But the Stoic walks like a traveler with a map, aware of detours, yet always returning to the path. You've probably felt this difference yourself. When you wake with a clear plan, the day flows. When you rise without direction, the day pulls you in 100 directions, none of which feel like progress. Seneca said, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." Purpose is the port. Deliberate living is the ship. Living deliberately doesn't mean every moment is serious. It means even your rest is chosen. Even your leisure serves the health of your soul. You are not wasting time. You are spending it with intention. And yet, purpose alone is not enough. The Stoics remind us that while you steer your ship, the sea has a will of its own. On the next page, we'll face the truth of what happens when the storms rise, and how stillness can be the anchor that holds you through them. We've spoken about the ship and the port, but every sailor knows calm waters are the exception, not the rule. Life will throw waves that rise higher than your confidence, winds that twist faster than your plans, and in those moments, the temptation is to fight the storm with frantic motion, to thrash against the water, wasting strength, feeding panic. The Stoics understood something deeper. Sometimes survival is found not in movement, but in stillness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." What does that mean in a storm? It means the sea can rage, but your helm remains steady. Think of the ancient harbors. Ships would drop anchor and wait out the worst of the weather. The anchor didn't stop the waves, but it stopped the drift. This is what stillness does for the soul. It keeps you from being swept away by fear, anger, or despair. And here's the truth: storms reveal who has cultivated stillness. When the calm finally returns, you'll notice something. Those who panicked are exhausted. Those who stayed still are ready to sail again. Stillness is not surrender. It's choosing to preserve your energy and your clarity for the moment when action truly matters. But here's the challenge. The storms are unpredictable. You cannot wait for the sea to be calm before learning how to anchor yourself. On the next page, we'll talk about how to build stillness before life demands it, so that when the waves rise, you're already ready. You don't build a fortress when the enemy is already at your gates. You build it in the years before the siege. Stillness is a muscle, and like any muscle, it weakens when neglected and strengthens when trained. You don't wait until chaos strikes to start practicing calm. You weave it into your daily life. For the Stoics, stillness began with simple disciplines. Rising early, not to rush, but to observe, to stand at the threshold of the day and remind yourself, nothing that happens is bigger than your ability to respond. It's in the way you handle minor frustrations, a slow line at the market, a rude driver. These are not random annoyances. They're the training grounds for your inner calm. If you can hold your peace here, you prepare yourself for the greater storms ahead. Marcus Aurelius himself practiced this. Each morning he would anticipate the day's irritations, not as a way to feel dread, but as a way to meet them without surprise. The blow you expect cannot knock you off balance. Here's the key. Stillness doesn't mean silence in the sense of inaction. It means a mind that is free from the compulsion to react instantly. It means you choose when to move, how to move, and why. And in a world that is constantly screaming for your attention, this is rare power. But even with discipline, the world will still try to pull you out of balance. On the next page, we'll talk about the one inner habit that turns stillness from a skill into a shield, protecting you no matter what chaos surrounds you. A shield is only useful if you carry it. Stillness is no different. It must be held close, ready in every moment. The Stoics knew that the mind is a battlefield long before the body ever enters one. What happens inside you determines how you meet what happens outside you. This is why they practiced the art of preparing the mind. Think about this. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to sail. That's what stillness really is, not an escape from the ocean, but the ability to move with it without being capsized. One of the most effective ways to do this is through the discipline of perspective. Marcus Aurelius wrote about seeing life from above, as if you were looking down at the tiny speck of your own troubles against the vastness of time and space. Suddenly, what felt enormous shrinks to its true size. Perspective is your shield. It deflects panic. It weakens fear. It reminds you, this too shall pass. Without perspective, even a small problem can feel like the end of the world with it. Even great loss can be endured with dignity. This is why the Stoics meditated on impermanence daily. Not to be morbid, but to remember that nothing lasts forever, neither pain nor joy. And knowing this, they could meet life without clinging to either. Stillness and perspective together form an unshakable core. But the Stoics had one more practice that ensured this calm could survive even the harshest storms. On the next page, we'll uncover that final discipline, the one that turns stillness into true mastery. Perspective guards the gates of your mind, but a fortress is strongest when its walls are reinforced from within. The Stoics believed that stillness was not simply the absence of noise, it was the presence of strength, and that strength was built through the practice of intentional withdrawal. This doesn't mean disappearing from life or avoiding responsibility. It means creating deliberate moments when you step away from the noise of the crowd, from the endless stream of demands, opinions, and distractions. Seneca warned about the danger of being everywhere yet nowhere, constantly pulled in every direction, never anchored in yourself, without solitude. You're like a ship without a port, drifting endlessly, tossed by every wind. So the Stoics carved out pockets of silence, time to write in their journals, to walk alone, to sit quietly and watch their own thoughts rise and fall. They knew that in solitude, the mind reorganizes itself. The scattered pieces settle, the water clears. But here's the paradox. Withdrawing from the world for a while makes you better in the world. When you return, you are not reactive. You're grounded. You are no longer playing catch-up with your own emotions. You move with intention, not impulse. Think about how rare that is today. When most people check their phones before they've even taken their first breath of morning air, when silence feels strange, even threatening. If you can train yourself to sit quietly, even for a few minutes each day, you will notice something extraordinary. The world will slow down, or rather, you will speed down to match the pace of reality. This is stillness as the Stoics knew it, cultivated in a state that allows you to move through chaos without becoming chaos yourself. But solitude alone isn't enough. Stillness must also be protected from the inside. On the next page, we'll look at the Stoic practice that keeps the mind clear even when life throws its most relentless storms. We've stepped into solitude, felt the clarity it offers. But what happens when the noise finds you again? For the Stoics, the real challenge wasn't escaping chaos. It was staying calm while standing in the middle of it. And their answer was simple but profound. Master your inner commentary. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Notice the order. The mind first, the world second. Every situation that comes to you, insult, praise, frustration, opportunity, passes through a filter in your mind. That filter is your interpretation, and interpretation is a choice. Imagine walking into a storm. The wind lashes at your face. Rain pelts your skin. One person curses the weather, feels attacked by it. Another pulls their coat tight, accepts the cold, and keeps moving. Same storm, different commentary, entirely different experience. The Stoics trained themselves to pause between event and reaction, to insert a breath, a gap, where they could choose the story they told themselves. Without that gap, you're a slave to reflex. Anger owns you, fear drives you, pleasure manipulates you. With that gap, you own your response. You remain the author of your own life. And this is where stillness takes root, not in the absence of challenges, but in your ability to meet them without being swept away. It's a discipline that requires daily practice. Each time you resist the pull of an immediate reaction, you strengthen your mind's anchor. And over time, storms may still come, but you'll stand like the Stoic oak, unshaken, bending only when you choose. But the Stoics also knew that mastering your mind's commentary was only part of the puzzle. To live with lasting stillness, you must also train your focus to place your attention where it matters most and guard it fiercely. That's where we'll go next. We've learned to master our inner commentary. Now it's time to direct our gaze, not just away from distractions, but toward the few things that truly matter. Epictetus said, "You become what you give you." Our attention to. This isn't poetic fluff. It's the law of the mind. What you repeatedly look at, think about, dwell upon, you begin to embody. The Stoics understood something most people today overlook. Your attention is your most valuable currency, and yet, most of us spend it carelessly, scrolling endlessly, reacting to every ping, consuming noise without nutrition. Stillness is impossible if your mind is scattered. You cannot stand firm if you are constantly pulled in 100 directions. It's like trying to sail a ship with the anchor dragging and the sails flapping wildly in every gust. So, what's the Stoic way? They called it prohairesis, the deliberate choice of what to focus on. This wasn't about clothing yourself off from the world, but about filtering it, choosing which voices to let in, and which to let pass like wind through the trees. Picture a sculptor. With each strike of the chisel, they remove what is unnecessary. The form, the truth, emerges not by adding more, but by taking away. Your mind is the same. Stillness comes when you strip away the distractions, the noise, the demands that don't align with your principles. Marcus Aurelius put it plainly. If you seek tranquility, do less, or more accurately, do what's essential. And essential, for a Stoic, means what is virtuous, what is within your control, what contributes to the common good. This is why focus is power. Without it, you're tossed like a leaf. With it, you're a stone in the river. Water rushes past, but you remain. The modern world will never stop throwing glitter in your eyes. Your phone will never stop buzzing. Your mind will never stop being tempted. But the Stoic doesn't beg for a quieter world. They build a quieter self. Once you've anchored your focus, the next step is learning how to act from stillness, to make decisions that are deliberate, unhurried, and rooted in wisdom rather than impulse. That's where the Stoic path becomes a daily practice, and that's where we'll go now. We began this journey searching for meaning, chasing it through noise, through urgency, through the endless hunt for more. But along the way, we discovered something older, something deeper, stillness. The Stoics didn't promise a life without storms. They taught us to stand steady in the middle of them. They showed us that our peace is not given by the world, so it cannot be taken by it. We learned to master the voice within, to turn down the volume of fear, anger, and pride. We learned to choose our focus like a sculptor chooses each strike of the chisel, removing the unnecessary, revealing the essential. We found that stillness is not idleness. It's the sharp edge of awareness, the ability to act without frenzy, to speak without haste, to live without chasing. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, if you seek tranquility, do less. Epictetus told us, you become what you give your attention to. Seneca warned, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And from him, we learn our life's quality is not built on circumstances, but on the strength of our inner citadel. So here we stand, not waiting for the world to slow down, but walking at our own deliberate pace, choosing each step, choosing each thought, choosing each moment. The call is simple. Stop running from yourself. Stop seeking meaning like it's hidden somewhere else. Build stillness. Let the storms come, and let them pass, and through it all, remain unshaken. Because in the end, the most powerful life you can live is the one you live from the quiet strength within. Thank you for walking this path with us. If this message brought you even a moment of clarity, welcome to the channel. We're just getting started. See you in the next chapter. And until then, stay grounded, stay grateful, stay stoic.